said, you guys are on the clock. And I'd promptly hit it underneath a little tree that's no longer there. So, yeah. Huh? Well, I think we were just both kind of in shock. I know Chad probably handled it better than I did. I mean, he was pretty quiet. I'm a little more volatile, I think. You know?
What was Paramore's response when you said to him, John, this is a major championship?
I mean, he didn't really have a response. I think it just was kind of like, well, you know, turn this cart around and off we went. You know, just put the, I mean, that's the first time I ever met John. And what a time to meet someone, you know. So I thanked him about that for a few years later when I saw him.
Can I ask one other question? Since you've been out here and played since the changes now, what's required this week that maybe wasn't required the last time you won here or vice versa?
Well, I mean, obviously the fairways, and I would say the difference that I see between 03 and when Jason won 10 years later is it was still tough in 13, but there was this new thing that they called graduated rough, and what I see out there today reminds me of when I won. It was, you know, a first cut, which is a yard or two, a couple yards, and then you've got it goes immediately into deep rough, and it is chip out rough. Now whether Kerry decides to start to maybe top it off a little bit, and maybe because what I was explaining to them today is with the trees being down and some of the commentary that I think that Andrew has given on his discussion of the changes that he made, is that he wanted to allow the players to have opportunities to go at these greens. He's made it so penal over the greens. I mean, yeah, I mean, you might draw a good lie, but to me, it's just a chip out. And so some of the stuff that I think he wanted to do and wanted to incorporate and allow for into the greens is really mitigated by the rough. So I love the views. I love seeing the openness of the course. You can feel the wind a lot more. It doesn't maybe swirl quite as much. I mean, we had a lot of wind changes today. The green complexes are relatively flat. They're fast greens, but there's more edges that they can capture, which then brings the bunkers more into play. You know, and some of the holes in 03 and 13, like 13, for instance, every pin was pretty much up the middle, and they didn't really have any opportunities to place them on these edges. So the bunkering really on the sides the bunkers weren't in play. And now they are. They're a lot deeper. It's just difficult now from tee to green. It is so challenging. It's hard. I have no idea what a score would be around here. I mean, today, it's a tough day. But Andrew did a fantastic job. I'm amazed at really what he was able to accomplish in a few months. I mean, I don't know how you restructure the entire greens, add all the new bunkering. I love the grass faces on the bunkers. I mean, I love Donald Roth, that style, the way that he's kind of cut them into sides of hills. You know, there are some bunkers out there you think, why would you put that there? And then you get out there and play it and you realize just kind of why he did it. But it's a challenge. The fairways are so firm that a lot of the holes are the way they've just got the contouring and stuff that they kind of bounce off the lines and into the rough. So I wish there was a little bit more width on some of the holes, on some of the dog legs. You know, 9's a perfect example of that. You hit it down the middle of the fairway with the right to left wind. And the young man, I was playing with Chris today and a club pro that qualified, and he hit it down the middle. But I told them, I was like, that's going to be in the rough, and it was. And so that's some of the difficulty is just being around the edges of the fairways that the balls are bouncing into the rough. So, you know, it's good. It's really good. I mean, if these guys, I'll say one last thing. If you've not been here, and I don't know what Justin said about the course, but I think that when a player steps on the property for the first time and they walk around and they see this place, they might literally say that it might be the best course they've ever played. You know, it's hard. Now, ask them that on Thursday, they may not say the same. The same thing I said about Augusta. Well, isn't this fun? And then I got there on Thursday, and I'm like, well, this is not fun at all. You know, it's just, it starts from hole one. So it's fantastic, and it's what a major championship should be.
Shaun, one more from Jeff.
Yeah, sorry.
For one last one, yeah. You know, some things about winning a major you're never going to know until you win one, right? And get on the other side of it. all of a sudden you have your name on this huge trophy. What does that do for a young player and the expectations upon him, and what kind of a challenge is that for you?
Well, I mean, I talk about the process. A lot of guys, you hear that word a lot, process. And I think major championship golf, you have a player, and I'll just go back to my era. You know, you go to college and you play in college golf. You play 4 years. You get out on, maybe you play the Nike Tour like I did, or Korn Ferry Tour, or maybe you play the mini tours. You get on tour and you keep your card for a few years. And I mean, it's a process. It's like, you know, when you're a pilot, you get hired. You don't start flying a 747 from the first day. And when I won that as a first, like I said, I was still in this process of learning to play high-level golf. I had gone from getting on tour to, okay, I've kept my card a few years. I've been in contention. I've blown a few tournaments. Now it's time to get in and, you know, and start contending. And it's just the process that I felt like you had to go through. And then when I won here, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, how in the world do I upstage what I just have accomplished? And I think the way that I won, kind of the walk-off moment, it's like, what do I do? And I struggled because it was the last major. I had a long time between the PGA and the Masters. There was a lot of interest in me and my story, my family, the birth of Dade. You know, it came 3 months later. There was just a lot of things that hit me at once. And my personality is not, I don't like to be the center of attention in anything. And it just changed the way, I like to just play golf, and if I could just play invisible out there, that was better for me. I didn't enjoy the commentary that some of the things that I heard afterwards. Several writers wrote a lot of things, and I thought, well, that's not really what I wanted to have happen. You know, I just won a golf tournament. You know, I didn't do anything special. It just took me a long time kind of personally to kind of get over some of the things. And to some extent, 20 years later, you know, I've still struggled, you know, with that, you know, trying to, I guess, every player wants to feel like they belong on the trophy. And I just say, I think that the guys that are on that trophy, you know, they played for their place in the game, their legacy. And I suppose I played to keep my job. And I think that's really unfortunate. And I look back and I'm like, that's exactly the way I played. I played like every shot was life and death, and at every round and at every year that either I was exempt or not, that just seemed to be what I was playing for. And it just, you know, I have so much regret, I think, in not, I guess, seeking some advice from, say, a Dr. Rotella or somebody. I made a lot of mistakes, and that's one of them. And so it was just tough. I mean, I look at my name on the trophy. I'm proud of it. I really am. I mean, I started playing golf. My first teacher was a PGA pro, Joe Cothy, and when I was like 9 or 10 years of age. You know, all my teachers that I've ever had have been members of the PGA of America. And so, you know, I mean, I've tried to justify the name on the trophy. I've tried to do that with my kids. I mean, they push me out the door. They encourage me to play. But when you win, and then your expectations change, and you become, I would say, driven by perfection. That was my undoing. You know, I gave up some of the things that I was doing well, and that was, you know, managing my practice time and playing with a bunch of people, practice rounds. I went to CPC Southwind. The next thing I knew, I had a video camera and an alignment rod, and that's what I did for 5 hours every day. And then I got hurt in 2007 and had to have shoulder surgery and missed almost a year. So, I mean, I look in the mirror and I own everything. I mean, I look back now. It's amazing what you kind of learn as an older person, you know. And you're like, golly, if I could just rewind, who knows if it would have been different. But I just did some things that I wouldn't do again.
Thanks for your time today,
Yeah.
Shaun. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.